I have already forgiven you. Not when you feel sorry enough. Not when you have punished yourself long enough to balance the scale. Not after you have replayed what happened enough times to feel like you have paid an appropriate price for it. Already. Before this moment. Before today. Before you found the words to properly apologize. Or before you gave up trying to find them. Before you felt the remorse fully enough to believe it was real. Before any of it. Already. And I need you to hear something that follows directly from that. The only one in the room still holding what I already released is you. The debt was settled. The record was cleared. The thing you keep returning to, the specific moment, the specific failure, the specific choice you wish you could unmake. I addressed it, completely, at the cross, 2,000 years before you were born, with full knowledge of what you would do and full willingness to pay for it anyway. So when I tell you to stop punishing yourself, I am not asking you to pretend what happened did not happen. I am not asking you to minimize it or dismiss it or act as though it had no weight. It had weight, and I carried it. That is what the cross was. Not a symbol, not a gesture, a transaction, a payment. A completed, final, irreversible settling of what you have been trying to repay with your guilt every day since. This is not a video that found you by accident. I placed this word in your path today because there is someone listening who has been living in a prison that I unlocked a long time ago and has not yet walked out. And today, I am standing at the open door saying, "Come out." In a few moments, I am going to tell you something specific, something about what the forgiveness actually covers that you have needed to hear for a very long time. Stay with me. My beloved child, I know what you have been carrying. Not a general guilt, the specific kind, the particular weight of a specific thing. The thing that comes to mind when someone talks about regret. The thing that visits you in the quiet moments you have not filled with enough noise to drown it out. The thing that arrives uninvited in the middle of ordinary moments. A song, a smell, a turn of phrase, and pulls you back to the moment you wish most that you could revisit. I know which one it is. I knew before you pressed play. I saw you on the days when you carried it well, when you moved through the hours and functioned and smiled, and no one around you had any idea what was running underneath the surface of the day. I saw the effort of that, the specific energy it takes to hold yourself together in the presence of something you have not fully laid down. I saw the face you put on and the face behind it, both of them, with full attention, without looking away from either. I heard the confession you prayed, the one that was so detailed, so thorough, so earnest that you thought surely this time it would be enough to feel the relief you were reaching for. And I heard the disappointment when the relief did not come the way you needed it to, when you said the right words and meant them fully, and still woke up the next morning with the weight sitting where it had been sitting the night before. I heard that prayer. I received it. And I want you to know it was received the first time, the 20th time, every time. Not one of them was wasted. I know the loop the memory plays on, the way it does not simply arrive and leave, but arrives and replays. The specific sequence of events, the specific words spoken or not spoken, the specific moment where everything could have gone differently if you had chosen differently. I know how many times you have run that sequence. I know what you are looking for when you run it. A way back, a do-over, a version of the story where you did not make the choice you made. I know that what you are really looking for is relief. And I know that the loop does not provide it. It only keeps the wound open. I was there in the moment it happened. Not as a judge counting the offense, as the one who already knew it was coming and had already prepared the forgiveness before the act was committed. I was there in the aftermath, in the silence that followed, in the weight that settled. In the first morning, you woke up with it already present before your eyes were fully open. I was there in the years since, in every anniversary of it, in every trigger. In every moment, the guilt reasserted itself. When you thought you had finally moved past it, you wondered if I was still angry. You wondered if what happened changed something permanently between us. If there is a version of our relationship that existed before and a diminished version that exists now, and whether what I say I feel about you can still be trusted after what I know you did. I know that question. I have heard it in 100 forms across the time you have been carrying this. And today, I am answering it directly, without qualification, without softening it into something less than it is. I am not angry. Nothing changed permanently between us, except that the cross happened. And what the cross did was remove permanently the thing that stood between us. What you are afraid created distance actually drove me to the cross to close the distance before you created it. The love I have for you is the same love that sent me there. And that love did not diminish when you did what I already knew you would do and already paid for. What you have been calling appropriate guilt, I have been calling something else entirely. And the moment I tell you what I call it, everything changes. Type, "I receive your forgiveness, Lord," in the comments if this is landing in the place it was meant to land, and you are ready to hear what God is about to declare over what you have been carrying. Before I tell you what the forgiveness covers, I need to tell you who you are, because the guilt has been rewriting your identity, and an identity written by guilt is not accurate, and you cannot receive what I am offering today from inside an identity that says you do not deserve to receive it. You are the forgiven. Let me say that with all the weight it carries. Not the partially forgiven, not the forgiven pending sufficient remorse, not the forgiven with an asterisk noting the severity of what was done. The forgiven, fully, finally, without remainder. Before your first breath, I already knew what this moment would cost me, and I chose you anyway. I saw the full arc of your life before a single page of it was written. I saw the specific thing you are carrying right now, the specific choice, the specific failure, the specific moment. And I chose to go to the cross with full knowledge of it, not in spite of it, with it in view. The cross was not a general payment for general sin. It was a specific payment for specific people. And you were specifically in mind. I have engraved your name on the palms of my hands. Not the name you feel like right now, burdened, unworthy, defined by what you did. The name I gave you, called, chosen, forgiven, loved. That name does not change based on what is in the record. And the record, I want you to hear this clearly, the record has been cleared, not suspended, not kept on file pending good behavior, cleared. As far as the east is from the west, that is how far I have removed what you did from what defines you. There was a young man who took his inheritance and wasted it. Every part of it, the money, the time, the relationships, the dignity. By the time he came to himself, he had a prepared speech, a carefully rehearsed admission of guilt with a specific proposal for how he would begin to work off what he had squandered. He had the argument ready. He knew he did not deserve to be called a son anymore. He was prepared to ask for employment. His father saw him coming from a long way off, not with folded arms and awaiting disapproval. Running, his father ran toward him before he arrived. Before the speech, before the apology, before the proposal for working off the debt. While he was still a long way off, his father ran, and when the son tried to deliver the rehearsed speech, tried to offer the carefully constructed argument for why he should be allowed back in a diminished capacity, his father interrupted it, not with judgment, with a robe, a ring, sandals, a celebration. Not, let me hear your case first. Not, I need some time to process this. Welcome home. You were gone. Now you are back. Let us celebrate. My beloved child, I saw you coming from a long way off. I ran. And the speech you have been preparing, the argument for why you deserve only a diminished version of what I originally prepared for you, the proposal for how you will spend the rest of your life working off what cannot be worked off. I am interrupting it, not with judgment, with a robe, a ring, sandals, a celebration. Not because what you did was small, because what I did was large enough to cover it. Here is what already means, and I need you to sit with every part of this. Already means before you asked. The forgiveness was not waiting for your confession to activate it. It was accomplished at the cross before you existed. Your confession opens you to receive what was already given. It does not produce what was not yet there. Already means before you felt sorry enough. There is no threshold of remorse that unlocks the forgiveness. It is not dispensed in proportion to the depth of the guilt you feel. It was given in full at the cross, and it is available to you in full right now, regardless of how adequate your sorrow feels to you. Already means before you stop doing it. The grace that covered your past extends to your present and your future, not as permission to continue, as assurance that what I began in you, I will complete. Your struggling does not disqualify you from my covering. It is the person who knows they need it, who receives it most fully. Already means 2,000 years ago, at a specific place, in a specific moment, with your specific name and your specific failure already in view. Already. Not someday, not eventually, not when the conditions are right. Already. I am your forgiveness when yours runs out of places to go. I am your clean record when the internal one you keep says otherwise. I am your identity when the guilt has been rewriting it. I am the God who ran toward you before you finished turning around, and who is not waiting for a better version of you to arrive before extending what was always already yours. You are worth running toward, and still, you are. Now, let me tell you what has been happening. Because self-punishment does not announce itself as self-punishment, it disguises itself. It wears the costume of appropriate guilt, of taking things seriously, of not being the kind of person who shrugs off what they did and moves on too easily. And because the disguise is convincing, because it looks and feels like the right response to what happened, it has been operating unchallenged. Today it gets named. And what gets named loses the power that came from operating unnamed. You have been replaying the past on a mental loop and calling it accountability. The replay is not accountability. Accountability is honest acknowledgement, genuine sorrow, real commitment to change. Accountability happens once, or a few times, with diminishing returns as the lesson is received. What you have been doing goes beyond that. The loop that runs, the specific sequence, the specific moment, the specific words, or silence, or choice, that is not accountability. That is a punishment you have assigned yourself. And it does not produce growth. It only produces more of the same weight, carrying the same record, replaying the same evidence against yourself that I have already dismissed. You have been believing that you do not deserve good things, and calling it humility. When something good arrives, an opportunity, a relationship, a kindness, a door, there is a filter operating in you that says, not for you, not after what you did. Good things are for people whose record is cleaner, and you let the good thing pass, or you hold it at a distance, or you find a way to disqualify yourself from it before it can be fully received. And you call this appropriate, this not reaching for more than you deserve. But this is not humility. Humility is the accurate assessment of yourself in relation to me. And the accurate assessment includes the cross. The cross is part of the assessment, and the cross says, worth it, completely worth it. Reach for what I prepared. You have been sabotaging what I send, and calling it realism. I have been sending things into your life. Good things, right things, things that belong to the season I have prepared. And something in you, shaped by the guilt, has been working against receiving them fully, creating problems where there were none, finding reasons to step back from what was opening, being drawn to the familiar weight of not quite enough, rather than the unfamiliar spaciousness of what I actually prepared. And when the sabotage happens, the guilt interprets it as confirmation. See, this is what I am. This is what I deserve. But I am the one who sent what you sabotaged, and I am sending it again. You have been confessing the same sin repeatedly and calling it thoroughness. There was a woman brought before me, caught in the act, no ambiguity, no defense. The accusers were ready. The law was clear. And I looked at her and said, "Where are your accusers? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, Lord. Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." "Neither do I condemn you." "Not." "Confess it again, and we will see." "Not." "I need more evidence of your remorse before I release the verdict." "Neither do I condemn you. In the moment, despite everything." With full knowledge of what she had done. The condemnation was lifted in an instant, not in proportion to her suffering under it. And yet, you have been returning to the same confession, as if the first time did not take. As if my forgiveness requires a certain number of repetitions before it is fully activated. As if confessing it again will finally produce the relief that the previous confessions did not. The relief is not in the repetition, it is in the receiving. And receiving requires believing that what I said the first time was real and complete and sufficient. You have been interpreting difficulty as punishment and calling it discernment. When things have been hard, when the door closed, when the situation did not resolve, when the season extended longer than you wanted, something in you has been connecting it to what you did, as if the difficulty is the bill arriving for the debt, as if I am settling the account through the hardship. And the guilt makes this interpretation feel accurate. Feels like the universe is behaving correctly by making things difficult for someone who did what you did. But hear me clearly. I do not punish my children by withholding my presence or engineering their suffering. The hardship you have been interpreting as my judgment is not my judgment. I settled the judgment at the cross. What you have been experiencing is life in a fallen world. The same friction, the same difficulty, the same long seasons that every person walks through, not as retribution, as the context in which I am building something in you, something that is not built in easy seasons. The enemy has been using the guilt to make you read every difficult thing as confirmation of a verdict I already reversed. And the reversal was real. The reversal was permanent. And today, right now, the misreading ends. Do not treat this like another video. What I am naming right now is the pattern that has been keeping the forgiveness from landing the way I intended it to land. And what comes next, what I am about to declare over your life, is what becomes available when the self-punishment finally stops. Now hear what becomes available when the self-punishment stops. Because the forgiveness was never just about removing the guilt. It was about what the guilt was blocking, and what it has been blocking, what has been waiting on the other side of the receiving, is more than you have been allowing yourself to hope for. You have been living at a fraction of what I designed your life to be. Not because I withheld the rest, because the guilt was closing the hands that were supposed to receive it. And today, as the self-punishment stops and the hands open, hear what was always there, waiting to be received. You have been carrying shame into every room. I am releasing the confidence of the fully forgiven. Not arrogance, not the pretense that nothing happened. The specific, grounded, unshakable confidence of someone who knows that the worst thing about them has been seen by God and covered by God and declared insufficient to define them. That confidence does not need to perform. It does not need to prove. It walks into rooms differently, not because it has no past, but because the past has been addressed. And what has been addressed does not have to be hidden anymore. You have been filtering good things through guilt. I am releasing the ability to receive freely. The permission to reach for what I prepared without the internal disqualification running in the background. The capacity to accept love from me, from the people around you, without the simultaneous work of explaining to yourself why you do not deserve it. What I give freely. And freely given, things are meant to be freely received, not received with one hand while the other pushes them away. Fully, with open hands. You have been interpreting your future through the lens of what you did. I am releasing a future that is not defined by it. The plans I have for you were not revised downward when what happened happened. I did not look at what you did and quietly adjust my intentions for your life to something more modest. I paid the price to keep the original plan intact. And the original plan, the one I designed before you were born, the one I was building before the guilt convinced you it was no longer available, that plan is what I am releasing today. Now hear what I am releasing in the specific areas the guilt has been closing. In your relationship with me, the warmth that guilt has been replacing with distance, the specific intimacy of someone who knows they are fully known and fully loved, not despite what I know, but with full knowledge of it. The prayer that feels like conversation rather than confession. The worship that rises from gratitude rather than obligation. The sense of being in my presence without the background awareness of what you have not yet sufficiently atoned for. That is what is available now. The relationship was always there. The guilt was what made it feel far. In your relationships with others, the capacity to be fully present that guilt steals. Guilt is preoccupied. It takes up space that was designed for connection. It creates a glass between you and the people I placed around you. When the guilt is no longer consuming the space, when what I addressed at the cross is received as addressed, the glass dissolves. And the relationships I designed for this season of your life become possible in a way they have not been, while the guilt was occupying the space they needed. In your calling, the gifts I placed in you that guilt said were disqualified. The specific things I put inside you that the shame has been suppressing. The voice that went quiet, the capacity that got buried. The contribution that stopped being made because the guilt decided you had forfeited the right to make it. Those gifts did not expire. They were placed by me and covered by me and are being released by me right now. What guilt suppressed, grace is releasing, and the platform that guilt said you lost is the platform grace is restoring. Type "I receive the freedom, Lord" in the comments if you are choosing right now to open your hands, to receive the forgiveness fully and everything it was designed to open in your life, in your mind, the peace that is the natural environment of the forgiven. Not the absence of the memory. The memory may remain, but it loses the power to condemn. What changes is not the fact of what happened, but its authority over your present. The memory becomes a chapter, one chapter in a longer story, rather than the definition of the whole book. And the mental space that was occupied by the loop is freed for what I have been trying to say into it for a long time. In your body, the release of the sustained tension of carrying guilt. Guilt is physical. The shoulders that have been pulled forward by what they carry. The chest that has been tight with what has not been released. The sleep that has been interrupted by what the mind returns to in the quiet. As the guilt is released, as what was carried is handed over to the one who already paid for it, there is a physical settling, a breath that comes differently, a rest that arrives more completely. The people around you who have watched the guilt operate in you without being able to name it, who have seen the self-diminishment and the refusal to receive fully and the pattern of stepping back from what should have been stepped into, they are about to witness something shift. What they observed as a person who held themselves back is about to become a person who received what God always intended. And when the shift is visible, when the confidence of the forgiven becomes apparent, they will see that what changed was not the circumstances. It was the receiving. I told you through my word, there is now no condemnation for those who are in me. No condemnation, not reduced condemnation, not conditional condemnation pending sufficient remorse. None. The verdict has been rendered. And the verdict is no condemnation. Walk in it. Not as a theory, as the lived reality of someone for whom the case has been closed. I am turning the guilt into gratitude, the shame into the foundation of a deeper compassion, the memory of what you did into the testimony of what grace does with what we bring to it. What felt like the defining failure of your life was always, in my hands, the context for the defining demonstration of what I can do with what you hand to me. And what I do with it is always better than what the guilt predicted. You will notice the freedom arriving in specific ways. A moment of unexpected lightness, when the familiar weight is not where it usually is, and you realize you have not thought about it in hours. A prayer that rises without the preliminary apology for the state you are in. A good thing received without the simultaneous internal argument for why you do not deserve it. A moment in worship when the distance dissolves and the warmth arrives that guilt had been keeping at bay. A conversation with me that feels like conversation rather than courtroom. These are my fingerprints on a heart that finally opened to receive what was always already given. Learn to recognize them, and when you do, say it out loud. The forgiveness was real, because it was, and I meant it, all of it. Something is shifting even as you listen. The self-punishment that has been the default is being replaced by the freedom that was always the intention. And what was always the intention is now available. But, my child, there is something I need to say about what stopping the self-punishment actually looks like. Because stopping is not passive. It is a daily, active, sometimes difficult choosing. And I want to help you understand what that choosing looks like, so that what begins today does not fade back into the old pattern by tomorrow morning. I do not want visits from you only in the moments when the guilt is loudest, only when the loop has been running long enough that you finally reach for something to interrupt it. I want daily friendship. I want to be the first voice you reach for in the morning, before the loop has a chance to start, before the guilt has settled into its familiar position, before the day has offered any new evidence for the prosecution. Give me that first moment, before anything else. Tell me you are here, and let me remind you of what I already said, because what I said does not expire between conversations. I forgave you already, and I will say it again every morning you need to hear it until the receiving becomes as natural as the breathing. Talk to me when the memory comes, not to confess again, to bring it to the one who already addressed it. To say, here it is again. I know you already paid for this. Help me receive the payment as sufficient, and I will meet you there every time. With the same answer I gave the first time, because the answer does not change based on how many times the memory requires you to bring it back. Now, to step fully into the freedom I declared, let some things go. Because you cannot step into the freedom of the forgiven while still operating from the posture of the unforgiven. What you carry through the threshold shapes what the other side looks like. Let go of the loop. The specific replay, the sequence that runs on repeat without producing anything except more weight. I am not asking you to erase the memory. I am asking you to stop feeding the loop. When it starts, when the sequence begins to replay, bring it to me instead of running it again. Say, I have been here before. You already addressed this. I am handing it back to you, and then let it go. Not with the force of willpower, with the trust that what I addressed is addressed. Let go of the internal record. The list you have been keeping of your own failures, the detailed accounting of what you did and how many times and in what circumstances. I do not keep that record. I specifically chose not to keep it. As far as the east is from the west, not as far as you can go before you hit a wall, but east and west, which never converge, which extend without meeting. That is how completely the record has been removed from my accounting. Stop keeping the record I chose not to keep. Let go of the verdict that says good things are not for you. Every time the internal voice says, not for you, after what you did, recognize it, name it, and replace it with what I said. I prepared this. I paid for you to have access to this. Receive it. Not because you earned it, because I gave it. And what I give is for you. Let go of the confession that is really a re-prosecution. There is a difference between bringing what you did to me in honest acknowledgement and bringing it to me again and again, as if the previous verdicts were not sufficient. The first is repentance. The rest is self-prosecution dressed as devotion. I received the repentance. The case is closed. What comes now is not more confession. It is more receiving. Let go of the identity the guilt built around you. The version of yourself that defines itself by what it did, that sees every good thing through the filter of what it cost you to receive it, that walks into rooms carrying the invisible but exhausting weight of what it is still settling. That identity does not belong to the new season. The new season has a different name for you, the same name I have always had for you: forgiven, loved, called, mine. Write "I stop punishing myself today" in the comments if you are choosing right now, in this moment, to receive what was already given and stop charging yourself for what was already paid. Do not go back to the loop after this. Do not return to the internal record I cleared. Do not pick up the verdict of not for you that I already overturned. Do not go back to the confession that is really a re-prosecution. Do not return to the identity the guilt constructed, not because it will surprise me if you do, but because you deserve to live in the freedom that the cross purchased. And the cross purchased it specifically for you, specifically, with your name, with your specific failure in view, and with full intention that you would walk in the freedom it bought. Walk differently after this. Pray differently, not from the position of the defendant, but from the position of the beloved. Receive differently, without the internal disqualification running alongside the good thing. Speak about yourself differently, not with what the guilt wrote, but with what I declared. You are not the same person who pressed play. Something has been declared. Something has been named. Something has been released that was keeping the forgiveness from landing fully. Honor that. Protect it. And do not let the familiarity of the guilt convince you tomorrow morning that today's word was not real. My beloved child, I am not finished speaking to you yet. But first, let me give you words to bring before me. Before we move forward together, let us pray. Lord Jesus, I come before you today with something I have been carrying longer than I want to admit. A specific thing. One you already know. One I have brought before you before. One that I have been trying to pay for with my guilt. Because receiving the payment you already made has felt too easy, too unearned, too much like letting myself off the hook. I know you paid for this. I know the cross was not a general gesture, but a specific transaction, and that what I am carrying was included in what you paid. I know that, and I have struggled to receive it, not because I doubt you, but because I doubt that I deserve to receive it. Because receiving it fully feels like saying what happened did not matter. And it mattered. So today, Lord, I bring both things to you. The real weight of what happened, the real cost of it, the real wrong of it, and the real payment you made for it. Both things. At the same time, the reality of what I did and the reality of what you did about it. And I ask you to help me hold both without letting either one cancel the other. I receive the forgiveness. Not the partial version, the full version. The version that covers what I did completely, that clears the record permanently, that removes the condemnation entirely. I receive it today, not because I finally feel sorry enough, because you said it was enough. And you are more reliable than my feelings. I release the loop. The specific replay that I've been running, the sequence I return to as if running it again will produce something different. I release it to you. I am not asking you to erase the memory. I am asking you to remove its authority to condemn, to let it become a chapter rather than the definition, to let what happened become part of my testimony rather than my sentence. I release the internal record I've been keeping, the detailed accounting of my failures that I've been maintaining, even though you chose not to. I hand it to you. Clear it the way you already cleared it, and help me stop recreating what you already removed. I release the identity that guilt built around me, the version of myself that believes it deserves less, that filters good things through what it did, that walks into rooms carrying the weight of a verdict you already overturned. That identity is not mine. I give it back, and I receive in its place the name you gave me, the one engraved in your hands, forgiven, loved, called, free. I ask you for the daily grace to keep receiving what I am receiving today, because I know the loop will try to return. I know the morning will come when the familiar weight reaches for its familiar position. And I ask for your voice to be louder than the loop when that happens. Remind me of today, of what was declared, of what was released, of the name that does not change based on what the guilt says. Thank you for the cross. Not as a symbol, as the specific, costly, completed payment for the specific thing I have been trying to pay for with my guilt. Thank you for paying it before I was born, with my name already in view, with full intention that I would one day walk in the freedom it purchased. I receive it. All of it. Today. In your name I pray. Amen. My beloved child, I am not finished speaking to you yet. There is still more I want you to carry out of this conversation. That prayer moved something. Not just in you, in the weight you have been carrying. Because when a person finally opens their hands to receive what was always already given, when they stop prosecuting themselves for what I already settled, something shifts that does not easily shift back. What you just received in that prayer is real. As real as what happened, as real as the cross, as permanent as the verdict I declared there. Before you close this, before you go back to your day, I need you to hear what I am about to say, because what comes next is not a closing, it is a releasing. You are free. Not free as in nothing happened. Free as in what happened has been addressed by someone with the authority to address it, and that address was sufficient. The cross was sufficient. My love for you is the kind of love that goes to a cross, and that love is not diminished by what made the cross necessary. If anything, what made it necessary is exactly why the love is what it is. The cross was the love in its most concentrated form, and that love, that cross-shaped, full-cost, nothing withheld love, is what declared you forgiven. When the loop tries to return tomorrow morning, and it may, call my name before it completes its first cycle. Just, Lord, I already received this. Help me hold what I received. And I will be there, with the same answer, the same forgiveness, the same open hands, not disappointed that you needed to come back, glad that you came to me instead of running the loop. When the guilt tries to filter the good things, when something arrives and the internal voice says, not for you, not after what you did, hear my voice over it. Hear me say, I sent this. I paid for you to have access to this. Open your hands and receive it as the free gift from the God who loves you, not as something you have to earn your way back to deserving. When you are weak in this, when the receiving feels too large and the guilt feels more familiar, I will be your strength, not your willpower, mine. The same grace that paid for the forgiveness is available for the receiving of it. You do not have to sustain this alone. You only have to keep coming back to me. And I will keep declaring the same thing I declared today, with the same certainty, the same warmth, the same full intention. Go forward, free, forgiven, not the partially forgiven, not the forgiven pending, the forgiven, fully, finally, already. Dear friend, if this message touched your heart and you feel led to support this ministry, you can use Super Thanks below. Your support helps us continue sharing messages of prayer, hope, and healing with those who need them most. God bless you abundantly. Type Amen if you received the forgiveness today, and share this with someone who needs to hear that they are already forgiven, and it is time to stop punishing themselves.